What's up, y'all? This is the Culinary Podcast. Thanks for waking up today, for listening, and thanks for just being you. My name is Jeremiah. I'm your host today. Tomorrow, uh, let's get to it. First thing I want to say is obviously it's in the title. I'm wrong. I'm going to be wrong a lot. I'm going to say a lot of wrong things. I'm going to say things that maybe don't make sense. And that's okay for me. I like to just say stuff that's on my mind for no reason and see what people say and how people react to it. Because, that's the only way to really, get to know the people that's around you in a way, if that makes sense. Like you can't really get to know people by not talking, by not saying what's on your mind or how you feel or what you think. Like people really, you really have to have to say some stuff that like pokes them. You have to get underneath their skin. And like I'm a professional at getting underneath people's skin. Sometimes I'm very like conservative. I step back and I'm like, let me just watch. And mostly that's my like first approach to any situation. Let me just watch and see how people do things and see how people react to like situations. And like that's actually like the most efficient way to gather information on people for the most part. But when you're in the role of like leadership, when you're like a manager in the kitchen, when you're like leading a team, you can't step back. You can't for me, I believe you can't stand in the background and watch, you know, how people do things. You really have to get involved and, kind of like dive in on people and say, hey, like I saw you were doing that duck, flesh side down, hard sear. I think we want to start with the fat part first, and see how they react. Like, no, chef, I've been doing this my whole life. Like, well, someone's been lying to you your entire life, and like, I'm the guy who's gonna tell you the truth, and that's all I can ever do, and that's all I hope to do here. Like always, speak my truth, and hope that people just hone in on that and listen to it. I made a lot of points in my prologue just to like introduce the culinary student to you guys, and it was a lot of information at once. If anything, too many points coming across, and that was never my intention to like overwhelm or get you guys like oh, this is gonna be another guy just ranting. I hope that's not the case. Like I do hope to like introduce you know literature and writing that to me is a very important part of my life as I look into like hobbies and interests outside of the culinary field. And that's one thing that a lot of chefs like I think during the COVID pandemic really realized like, hey man, I like to play video games. I like to go out and take walks. I like to breathe fresh air. I like to paint. I like to write. A lot of people really took the time to rediscover who they were as an individual. And I think honestly, I was kind of lost for the most part when it comes to like who I was as an individual without my identity in the kitchen. Because being in the kitchen was everything. Like I honestly never hesitated to dive in and do long hours because it was to me that was who I am. That's how I identified myself. And so it wasn't a problem to sacrifice and put in those hours because it's either that or what am I doing with my life kind of mindset or mentality. And in many ways, you have to like get out of that mentality of culinary being everything because culinary arts is it's kind of like an embodiment of your experiences. It's an embodiment of like what you expose yourself to, your culture on the inside, like inside of your heart. Like when you plate food and you put food on a plate, you really do have to dive in and really think about what does this plate mean to you? What do you want people to see when they eat it, when they see it, when it hits the table for them? And these are a lot of conversations that you don't really get talked to about in the beginning of your career or you really learn about unless you're like the kind of person like I said like who dives in, who pokes, who goes and like, hey man, this is what you're doing, why are you doing that? And even for me, at a point where hey, you need to start training these people, you need to start guiding the next chefs and see what they're interested in so that we can motivate them within our organization to to really come through for us and like make changes, you have to really like be passionate to me. Like I don't think like if I see a chef comes in, he's just here for the money. He's just here to like, milk the clock. I do not gravitate towards you. I do not think, hey, I'm gonna go waste an hour of my day trying to make this guy the next passionate chef, the next motivational chef. And in that mindset, I'm wrong. Like how do you inspire people around you? How do you make them want to be a part of your team? How do you make them want to fight for your passions and dreams when those passions and dreams are not yours, or not theirs? They don't care about your success in a way. A lot of people are self interest. Like they need to know, hey, what am I going to get out of this? How is this going to help me to get better, get a raise, get a promotion, advance? And that is something that like every chef period is thinking about every day of the week. Like, you know, yeah, we need to create a team, we need to create this culture, we need to create this environment where everybody's like happy and everyone's motivated and everybody's trying to do their best towards the organization. But at the same time, like if this guy keeps messing up that duck, he's gonna have to find another organization. And that's just me being honest, bro. Like, and hey, I'm not saying I didn't fuck up a duck or two. I'm just saying after number two, number three had to be perfect or else. um, like I said, my last chat, please follow me at the Writers Art. It's one of my writing blogs, and it's a collection of writing and short stories that I've created over the years. I actually been writing since high school, and it's definitely like it's a branch from my culinary arts. Like it's not a matter of like this is a completely separate like thing. It's more like I've met so many people, I experienced so many like different places and different environments that I never really knew how to monitor my emotions or control it other than by using like writing as like an outlet, you know. And like I wrote a quote yesterday about in a way about leadership to me, and it was mostly because it mostly came from my last podcast that I made, the prologue, the Culinary Student, and how much mistakes I made in like it was an experiment, of course. It was a I just wanted to like test it out and see how it feels to talk in front of a camera and talk to like complete strangers about like my experiences. And it's not even complete strangers. I'm in a room by myself, but at the end of the day, like I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna try to get some more followers. I'm gonna like, maybe I'm gonna wear a suit one day on the podcast just because like why not wear a suit in the morning when you wake up just to go on a podcast and talk to yourself. I honestly do believe that if you don't do it for yourself, you can't do it for other people. Anyway, the quote I wanted to read to you is it's quick. It's nothing crazy either. It's just like a quick line. It's like it's not that I'm always right. It's that I'm always wrong. It makes me mad when others can see that I'm wrong, especially when I try to hide my mistakes behind perfection. And then like I listened to that, when I said that, I thought it to myself last night in my head, and I'm just like hiding my mistakes behind perfection, like hiding my faults, hiding my doubts, hiding my fears. It goes on to say like, as a leader, we hide doubts, we hide fears, we hide mistakes behind being right. We hide it behind that because we don't want to. How do we motivate people? How do we get people going? How do we get them inspired if if you're the guy, you're the one in charge, and you're constantly failing, or you're constantly making mistakes, and you're constantly like you don't know what's going on? You have to project that that strength of knowledge of of season and experience. And that's probably like a lot has a lot to do with why so many young chefs find it hard to get in high positions of power despite having like a lot of experience, despite having a lot of skill and potential. It's like a matter of just like the president. Who do you want to see in the office? Do you want to see? I mean, on and I'm not going to bring politics into this. I promise you, because politics is the last thing that's on my mind. It's on my mind, but it doesn't need to be on yours. Who do you want to see in office? Do you want to see a super? Maybe some people do want to see like a super young guy who's like super passionate, connecting with the youth of America, connecting with the next generation of America, and then propelling that generation forward with him over the next 4 to 8 years. And then we move on to the next guy and move on to the next guy. Or we need to have the people who've been there the longest in America, the people who's been struggling for the last 80 to 90 years, not to throw shame on age, that want to sit in that seat and say, hey, for the last 80, 90 years, this is what we've been doing. It's been working right. So for the next, 4 to 8 years, this is the direction we're going to move in. And that's like a very like I think that's a battle that organizations definitely face when it comes to choosing leadership and how they want to go about leading their culture and their company in a certain direction. Like, do we hire a guy who's going to uphold our standards, keep those standards moving, continue that success that we've seen? And even if we are failing at the moment, even if the company is not doing so well, is it a matter of giving up on our processes that's brought us to where we are and bringing in somebody new who has new ideas and new perspectives and new concepts on how we should do things, and then take the risk of watching this guy fail trying to create these concepts, create these like new ideals and bring it to life. And like I said in my last podcast, it's not a matter of coming into an organization and making them gutting it out. Ugh. Maybe there's people who have careers built on gutting out organizations and moving it in a new direction, but it's always like this big aggressive change that takes. Now millions of people lose their jobs, trust is lost, people go homeless. But we don't want to talk about that, right? We just want to talk about progress and the success that we're going to see in the next fiscal year because of the decisions that we had to make today. And we can go into ethical leadership, but a lot of organizations have already joined the dark side. Never gonna do that again, I promise. Maybe once or twice, because like Darth Vader is just the classic dark side, you know, voice for any situation. And like, why did I title this podcast? I'm wrong. It's because I find that the leader that I gravitate towards the most, the leader that I respect the most, and I'm willing to work harder for, is the leader who pokes you, who gets involved, who tells you what's on his mind, who tells you his faults, and stuff like that. How he failed and how he got back up. And because, like I said, as a culinary student, you go into the field with these like expectations, and you don't want to be failing. You don't want to show your mistakes. You want to hide behind like perfection because those perfections are what like shows that you're capable of moving up and becoming what you want to be. Like everyone wants to be a fucking executive chef, bro. Everyone wants to be an executive chef. But it's like that job is not like as easy as it looks. It's not as walk in the park. It's you literally have a business in your hand, you have people in your hand, you have decisions in your hand, and you're doing all of this with somebody else's money. And let me tell you, that guy with the paycheck, he's on you. Like white on rice. Like stink on shit. Like another phrase that I can't. can't think of at this moment. I really can't. Maybe I should write that down before I was thinking about just getting a comedy book and having it right next to me so I could just give you like the best comedy jokes of the last century. But preparation is key, and obviously I need to be more prepared for these podcasts. And back to what I was saying is like, if you are honest about how you lead, how you how you fail, how you get back up, how you organize yourself, and you know how you view the way the organization is doing things, you open up a dialect for your team to to question things too, to bring up ideas, to bring up ways that they see, hey, maybe this could be a way that we can do things better, maybe this is the way we can do things better. And you're pretty much like gathering information. You pick, you probe, you got underneath people's skin. People are finally talking to you. They're finally telling you how they're feeling. You're gathering information about the place you work, and you're like, okay, let me sit down with my leaders now. Let me sit down with the managers. Let me sit down with these groups of people, and let's get these ideas into the open, and let's pick these ideas apart to see whether or not, a, like I said, you don't want to gut out an organization. You want to stand on top of that platform that they've established and move forward with it. So you take these ideas and you say, does this idea help with the organizational goals? Does this idea help us to accomplish these tasks? Does this idea, is everyone in the room 100% behind this idea? And it's not even a matter of 100%. Let me take that back, because compromise is, you always got to lose something, you know? And I think that's what people, are like the most scared about. Like I said, if you're a manager and you're in charge, you want to be right, but you're not going to be right all the time. In fact, you're going to be wrong a lot of the time. And compromise is the art of understanding when you're right, when you're wrong, when to give, when to take, when to concede to like other people and their ideas, as because at the end of the day, who's on the line more, you or the line chef? Who's working the salad station more, you or the garde manger manager? Like, you have people around you who's constantly being exposed to these different environments in the kitchen, constantly getting involved, constantly looking at the prep, constantly seeing the mistakes, the success, and then you walk around like nothing's going on, like everything's fine and dandy. And it's like, no, man, no, we all see, we can all see the fire in the back. The kitchen's on fire, man. We can see that. We know you're going to get the fire extinguisher. Like, you don't need to pretend like you're not. We can see that, we're trying to make cuts. We can see that people are going home early. We know that, oh, it's slow season, man. Like, they're trying to make these financial, they're getting strict with the finances. How do you navigate these situations while getting everyone involved and helping them to understand, hey, like, this is what's going on. This is why we have to make cuts. This is why there's a fire in the kitchen. This is why I'm getting the fire extinguisher. Is because there's these problems, and these are some mistakes that we've been making. How do we make solutions? How do we fix those problems? What do you guys believe is the best way to go about getting ahead on this? Because at the end of the day, man, like, sometimes it feels like, as a chef, all you're doing is, problem solving, bro. Like, it's like I'm a fucking computer technician. Like, oh no, the motor, the monitor is down, the fucking keyboard's not working, the internet just like went down. It's like, why is it a matter of in an industry where we pride ourselves on like having this like perfectionism, this control, this like this science behind cooking, are we like failing to you know be prepared for all these mishaps or stuff that's happening? And like what happens is that we don't have checks and balances. We don't have like people at every level of the organization who are stepping into that role of leadership and learning, hey, this is what it takes to be a leader. This is what it takes to grow. Hey, these are the mistakes I've made. This is what you need to learn in order to, move up. We don't have those people because in some restaurants we treat people like, hey, this guy's dumb. Hey, don't even trust what that guy says. He's, I don't know where he's on cloud nine over there. And we get rid of people who are like, a lot of places get rid of people that are like passionate and like, who have these like bold, crazy ideas. A lot of places are like, sir, like that doesn't go in line with the strategic plan. And it's very hard to create an environment where everyone's heard, everyone's listened to, ideas are being ripped apart and built together as a team. Because to me, the only way an idea can work is if everyone feels like they've had their little piece in it. Like, like finally the fries are selling right. Thank you, this guy, the fry cook, for making the fries right. Thank you, oil guy, for making sure the oil's clean. Thank you, last night guy. And then everyone wants to, to get their applause. Everyone wants to get their appreciation. But like, if like you sat down in a group and you talked about these ideas and you're like, you effectively made a change together with your team. It's not even a matter of like everyone needs to get their ass slapped. Good job. It's a matter of everyone knows that they are a part of something. They're a part of an organization. They're a part of a team. They're a part of this like unit of people who are effectively making change within their organization. And more importantly, they learned why they needed to make the change. They learned why they failed in the first place, and they learn from their mistakes. And they learn that the biggest problem is like when people make mistakes over and over again and they don't want to say anything, they want to hide it, they don't want to bring it to light. How do you grow as a line cook, as a cook who's trying to get better? How do you grow within an organization in order to help that organization accomplish its goals and master that stress, that strategy that is going to take them to the next level? And how do you grow as an individual? And that's what a lot of chefs need to start thinking about. They need to start thinking about in this time when the the economy is tight, guys. Like it's a lot of chefs are being let go when it's like slow season. Sorry, man. Like you were slacking all during the busy season. It's time for you to go. This guy has to get out of here because he's not in line with our corporational values. A lot of people just quit because they're stressed out and tired and they're done with it in the first place. And it's like we need to retain these people, these talents, these because we spend so much money on people just to bring them into the organization, just to train them, all the failures that they've done, and just to do go through all those processes and to lose the talent that you've worked so hard to acquire, or you work so hard to, even if they're not talented, like it's also our responsibility to train people to meet the standards that we establish in this organization, because no one's walking into your organization 100% ready to go for you. They came in with their ideas, their mindset, their conceptions on what it means to be a chef. And the most challenging part as a leader is to take those conceptions, take those ideals, take those passions, and convert it to how you need it to be in order to push this organization forward and do your job well. And it feels good to sit here and to talk about it out loud and say these kind of things, with myself and the camera. Like, I've always talked to myself a lot too, so it's actually a relief to actually have a camera so I can see myself, talk to myself, and it's just even more weirder than it was before. So camera doesn't help. Just in case you were wondering. Uh, Other than that, man, it's just a process of really like trying to roll with the punches. You know, like there's gonna be. My chef told me that the higher you go up the chain, the bigger the target is on your back. Like everyone's after you. Everyone's like throwing darts at you. You're like, oh, what's that? A bee sting? Nah, there's people like they're laser jet on your back, wondering what are you gonna do here? What are you gonna bring to the table? How are you gonna inspire people to be leaders and accomplish organizational goals? And that really is a matter of understanding the people around you, understanding yourself and your needs and requirements within the organization, because we're all here for self. So, like, understanding yourself and what you need in order to be successful, that needs to be communicated. Then the organization needs to communicate their needs and wants to you. And then you guys take those ideas and concepts and you bring it together and then you compromise. And then after you compromise, we now have an idea of how we're going to go about your career, how we're going to go about making you successful. And unfortunately, that doesn't involve just you and me. It involves me, you, that guy you hate, the dishwasher that doesn't do shit, and the fucking one line cook that you never fucking see until service starts. And we have to rally all these guys together. We have to tie them up in a knot, make it look pretty, and then we got to go into fucking service, guys. Let's fucking cook, right? As always, thank you for joining me today and listening to my rants, thoughts, and ideals. Please share your comments below, and if you're interested, please follow me at Palladio Lounge on Instagram and Facebook. And I've already mentioned my writer's art blog, which is also all found on my YouTube channel. This is the Culinary Student. Uh, Signing out.